Transitioning to the big bed. So when should this happen? The answer is usually around 2.5 to 3. I always advise trying to keep your little one in a cot until closer to age 3 if you can. And the reason for this is they don't actually get the cognitive ability to really understand the concept of staying in bed until they're closer to 2.5, 3. At least 2.5. So somewhere between 2.5 and 3, you're going to be safe. If you find that you just can't keep your child in the cot any longer because maybe they're climbing out and would hurt themselves, then that's a valid reason to go to a toddler bed or something like that sooner. But only do that if you've tried everything to keep them in the cot first. So you could initially. Some people do it if they just threaten to perhaps maybe climb out. They might not do it, so you might want to just put a spare mattress down or some padding or something down so that if they do, they won't be hurt. That's one thing you can do, because maybe your child won't climb out. It's more of a fear that you think they may. The other one is this different sleep sacks that you can get. They're really good at preventing them from actually getting their legs up and over the side of the cot, so they shouldn't be able to climb if they're in a sleep sack. Now I know some of the toddlers and older ones, they move around too much and parents don't want them in the sleep sack because they can't walk, and if they try they fall over and then they hurt themselves in the cot. But there are so many different types out there now, and you can get little ones with little feet holes. So it's still like a sleeping bag, but they have little feet holes, so they can walk around and they can move about safely, but they have that restricted movement, they can't get their legs over. I've even seen baby grows and other sleep suits that have very low, like webbed crutches down to the knees, which again, prevent that leg action of being able to make the climb. So I honestly would recommend that you pull out all the stops to keep your child in the cot until at least age 2.5. It will pay off, it's so worthwhile. Again, like I say in lots and lots of my advice, the easier going temperaments, the type that go with the flow, that probably you're not one of these parents because you wouldn't be looking for help, but those types, they can sometimes get away with going into a bed earlier. They just kind of accept it and stay there. That's their personality type, and that's fine for them. But if you see challenges with sleep, then that's probably not your child, and you'll probably benefit more from sticking to the sort of 2.5 to 3 to be on the safe side. And another thing people do, and it's again a really common thing, especially with your first child, is you just sort of look around and go, oh well, so-and-so's child is in a bed now, and or you're excited about it, and you just sort of rush it and push forward too soon. You think, yeah, we're done with the cot thing now, and let's get this nice cute bed. Don't do it because everyone else is doing it. It doesn't make it the right answer. Maybe they're having enormous battles for keeping their child in that bed, or maybe they're not because they're one of the lucky ones that just they're easygoing. So don't do it through sort of competition. And also the other thing is, don't do it because you think your child doesn't like their cot. If you think, oh, I have so much hassle with getting my child to go to sleep, he jumps up and down and he thrashes about, and I think he just doesn't like the cot, so if I get a really nice bed and maybe a roasting car one, then maybe he'll like it and then he'll want to be there. That's not the answer. The bed is not the problem. It's all a behavioural thing that's going on there, and it will just be worse. Maybe not at first, maybe not for a week or two, but ultimately the underlying challenge there is not being addressed. You're masking it. You're going, oh yeah, we can't get our child to sleep in a cot, so we'll try a different sleep space. It's an expensive way of just prolonging the problem. So hopefully I've given you some good reasons there to not rush and to ideally wait to age 2.5 to 3. Yeah, really, really worth doing. So if you do it too soon, you're gonna see new challenges. Maybe, the challenge at the moment is, but I think my child might climb out, or, but my child doesn't seem happy in the cot. Transition to the bed, and the new challenges you're gonna see are things like they won't stay in bed, and they're under 2.5, so they don't have the cognitive ability to teach them that either. So you'll be trying to teach them this, They can't really process that properly yet. So you're in for the long haul. And if that's the case, and your child's getting up, say, I don't know, every few hours in the night, coming to look for you or calling out, you're going to need to respond to that patiently, knowing that it's unreasonable to expect your child to just know that they need to stay there. They don't understand that yet. So it's another reason why you shouldn't rush. It's going to open up a new can of worms. So just be prepared for that. Now, the other thing is it can take a few months to actually find their freedom, to realise their freedom. So you may put your little one into a bed, and this could be, you know, what I'd call too soon, you know, maybe at 18 months, 2 years, too early, or even after 2.5, you know, to 3, and they're fine. They stay put for a while. Everything seems great, but it takes a few months before they realise their freedom. They realise they can get out, and they realise that, yeah, this is interesting and I can explore. So don't think just, oh, it's been 3 nights and my child hasn't got out of bed, we're on to a winner. It can take some time before they find their freedom. And that's another thing that I think parents often do when they do it too soon, and they go, well, we transitioned to the toddler bed at 18 months, and it's been a good week or so and it's going really well. I hope it continues to go really well, but it could take a few months and then that child finds their freedom. So if they're over 2.5, and so you know they have got that cognitive ability to understand, and you can teach them about staying in bed if they're over 2.5, then what I would say to you to do, if you find that your child is repeatedly getting up because they found their freedom and they just keep, you know, I'm waking up and, oh, just get up, and it becomes a knee-jerk reaction. It becomes, I'm awake, oh, get up then. And it's just something they do that can quickly get very habitual. You need to teach them a new habit, which is I wake up and I need to lie down and go back to sleep. Now that initially will probably mean replacing your child's bed over and over again. Hopefully that will happen at bedtime. I say hopefully, you're thinking, why? That would be a nightmare, that'd be awful. But actually, if it happens at bedtime, you can practice and practice and practice when you're more awake, rather than at 3 in the morning when you're really not in the mood to be awake. And that practice they get at bedtime is going to then help and make it less likely to happen later in the night. So just be patient and understand that your child is just learning. They're just exploring and learning. They're intelligent. They're challenging things. They're testing, well, if I do this, what will happen? If I do this, what will mummy or daddy do then? You just want to meet that with the same response every time, and be cool, be calm. You're not getting cross. You don't want to get agitated. They'll sense that. But you also don't want to reward the repeated getting up with a big interaction or a fun experience that makes them go, well, that was good, let's do that again. So just be very bland and boring, really. You're responsive, you're perfectly kind and nice, you're being a responsive parent, but you're just not incentivizing it to keep happening. So you just take your child, guide them back to bed, let them get back in. You might want to whisper night night and leave the room again, and do that on repeat. This is for a child who is used to going to sleep by themselves, by the way. If you're working on something and you're working on teaching self-settling, or if you're usually staying in the room, then that's going to look a bit different. But if it's just a case of replacing your child to bed, then that, you don't, just keep doing it on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. That's really important, actually, because somebody might watch this and think, you know, it's not as simple as that. We have screaming tantrums, they, you know, really won't stay in bed. I would suspect there's more going on there, and that might mean actually implementing a slightly different plan and help them learn to self-settle happily in their bed first, which might mean staying with them a bit and supporting them through that. If it's all a bit, you know, traumatic. When I say, you know, quietly replacing them repeatedly, that's based on a child who can self-settle, usually does and has been quite happily, and it's just about the fact that it's a new bed. That's what I'm talking about when I say just persist, just put them back, and they'll soon learn to stay put. So I hope I've made that clear, that those two things are slightly different. And another thing that can work really nicely with teaching them to stay in bed is one of the kind of sleep-wake clocks, and I've covered this in other episodes, so do check that out, when and how you can use that sort of thing. But they work really well at signalling it's time to lie down and be in my bed, as opposed to, oh, it's okay to get up now. Because at 2.5 to 3, they might not really know, even, beyond 3, they might not be sure. They might, depending on the season, it might be really light. They might think, well, surely it's light, I can get up now. You need a sort of a thing that tells them so that you don't have to keep telling them. And that can be one of these clocks. It could be a timer on a light that pops on and they know that, oh, the light's not on yet, I need to lie back down. And again, you can practice this. You can do it through role play, and you can go, hey, let's practice. What does the clock say? So you're in bed and you're having a sleep and you wake up. Oh, what do? Do you come to mummy or daddy? No, check the clock. What does the clock say? Oh, the clock says I need to lie back down. And just, make it fun and interact with them and practice it so that they become, they get a new habit. And the habit is I wake up, I check my clock, or I check, my signal. Not I get up and I just, without even thinking, get out of bed, because so many of them do that when they get into a habit. So there you go. This is all about transitioning to the big bed. And I hope that serves you with really useful information so that you can conquer that challenge at the time that's right for you and for your child.